In recent years, Hibernian Hall has been putting Dudley Square on the map as a destination for culture. Originally built as a social club and dance hall for Irish immigrants, the building and its programs are currently managed by the Madison Park Development Corporation. To tell us about this year's fundraiser for the hall is the corporation's resource development manager, Kay Mathew. Thank you very much for being with us, Kay.
Thank you for having me.
I know you've probably talked about this before, but how did Madison Park end up salvaging this building?
Well, it's a great story. The building had been closed and really in blighted condition for several years, I want to say decades. Before we renovated, it was a training site for workforce development efforts in Roxbury, and then before that it was an Irish social club for about 4 decades. And so in the early 2000s, Madison Park acquired the building, and after a really rich community process, talking with neighbors and community members and allies what to do with the building, the decision was made to renovate it and renovate the 3rd floor, which is the ballroom, which is the theater and the open space. It's a 2-floor space that is really beautiful. And so that was exciting. So it opened in 12 years ago in 2005. And since then, it's been used for a number of different things. Right now, we present performing arts, theater, music, dance. We open up the hall for community events as well. And we try to nurture and support local emerging artists from Roxbury and Dorchester, Mattapan.
I think I might have gone decades without hearing much of anything about Hibernian Hall, and now I hear it all the time. I mean, we go to all these forums for politicians there before. It's like you can't have election time without something happening in Hibernian Hall.
That's right, and we had, I think, the only live debate between the 2 mayoral candidates this year, and it was so exciting. The audience was just so energized, and it was standing room only.
Well, I think there was one more, but at least you had the first one. But talk about the kinds of artistic programs that are going on there in this hall, because this is not the sort of activity that you can find just anywhere.
Well, this is true, and like I said, one of the goals of Hibernian Hall is to support emerging artists, local artists, regional artists, and by providing what we call a playwright in residence program, which has been going on now for, I think, 4 years. We're going into our 5th year. We have a visiting playwright who is given the time and space not only to write but and compose plays, but to actually produce them at Hibernian Hall. And that program has been our anchor program for the past, like I said, 4 years or so. Right now we have Trisha Elam Walker, who's a writer. She's a Dorchester writer, and she also works in Washington. She teaches, I think, at Howard University. Last spring, in May 2017, we produced 4 short plays of hers, and now she's working on a play called With Glittering Eyes, and that will be produced next year in 2018 at Hibernian Hall.
Now, these are not just plays that you can go and look at or that might relate to the history of people in the community, but it's also, I guess, maybe an education and training tool for some people, some of the young people maybe in some of these activities.
Well, to some extent. For example, this past year we had a songwriting workshop that went on for 8 or 12 weeks, beginning last winter for high school students, local high school students, that was led by local music producers, and they developed and produced their own CD. We're going to do that again, this coming winter. It was a great success, and it was really a wonderful opportunity, I think, not only for the young people themselves, but also for the adults who served as instructors and mentors in turned out to be a good program.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Mathew from the Madison Park Development Corporation. One other event happening at this hall around New Year's is going to commemorate a milestone for Roxbury, the cultural district. Talk about what that is and why that's so important.
Yeah, well, Hibernian Hall had been taking the lead in trying to get Roxbury, in particular Dudley Square, Elliott Square, designated as a cultural district by the Mass Cultural Council. And this has been going on, well, I don't know, maybe 4 years, and through a lot of community work and effort, last May we were indeed designated, Roxbury was designated as a cultural district by the Mass Cultural Council. So we're having an event this Thursday, November 2nd, and it's the theme of the event is celebrating arts and culture in Dudley Square, and part of which is about the fact that Roxbury has been designated a cultural district, only the third in the city of Boston so far. It's very exciting. We have a large, energized group of artists and community groups, and we're now just getting started developing the entity itself and hopefully programming a number of activities for artists and the community.
Well, one of the things you're going to be doing at the fundraiser on Thursday is giving some recognition to artists. Talk about
That's
that,
right.
at least in a general way, why that's so important.
Well, I think, and this is what we do every year in this event. It's an event that we hold this time of year. Every year it's been going 6 or 7 years now, and it's a free event for our community and our friends and our supporters. And it's a fundraiser in that we have major donors from corporations and other businesses that can support us. And what's key to the event, besides people having a good time and listening to great music, is recognizing artists and sometimes artist educators from the community, from Boston. We call it Community Catalyst Awards. This year we're honoring 4 people, a writer, a filmmaker, a dancer, and a playwright. And we're very excited to have them come and be with us. They'll bring their friends and their own colleagues and allies. And each person will be doing a very short, brief kind of presentation around what their art is. And we'll have a dancer and someone giving a reading, a short clip of film, and that's kind of the center of the programming that happens.
Well, we should make sure people know the time and the place where this is going to be happening.
Yeah, it's Thursday, November 2nd at Hibernian Hall, 184 Dudley Street, right in the heart of Dudley Square, Roxbury. It starts at 7 and goes until 10. There's lots of food and drink and camaraderie and music.
And finally, you've got some details about this and other things to come on the website for Madison Park?
Yes, and the website is www.madison-park.org.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Mathew from the Madison Park Development Corporation.